Hi guys, I am just waiting for Heloise to join and then we'll get started. I must apologize for my appearance between having extreme hay fever here in Cape Town and just lack of sleep. I do not look my best, but we are here and I hope you guys have been enjoying these videos every other week. I hope it's been super informative. And yeah, if you have any questions, please, DM me. If you don't want to send anything in the comments, I'm more than happy to help or give advice. You can always book a virtual coffee with me. And yeah, hi guys, thank you for joining. Hi Tandy. Aha. All right. Sorry. See, Heloise has just joined. For those of you that are joining, we're actually discussing setting up your business to win. Oh, here's Heloise. Hi, Heloise. Can you hear me?
Hey. Yes, loud and clear. Can you hear me?
Perfect. I was just doing a quick introduction. So for those of you that are just joining, myself and Heloise are going to be chatting about setting up your business to win from a financial aspect. As I mentioned just a couple of minutes earlier, I hope you have been enjoying these videos that I've been doing. And, obviously the guests that I've been bringing on, they are really super informative, and the people in the space, they are thought leaders and, just really quote unquote killing the game. So Heloise I actually met through E2, through my tribe. And yeah, we kind of just bonded over that and obviously online as well. So I'm going to give Heloise the platform and obviously just to introduce herself as well as her business called Women in Numbers, or abbreviated, which is WIN, ironically enough. So Heloise, you have the floor.
All right, thanks, Cleo, for allowing me to be on your platform. So yes, my name's Heloise. I have a company called Women in Numbers, abbreviated to WIN. But if you actually check the logo out, it has like a woman in the middle with a crown on. And the story behind it is I am a tax practitioner and a registered accountant, but I set up my company actually for women, stay-at-home moms specifically, that are qualified but need the flexibility. I think moving from Cape Town to Joburg, I didn't have the support base, and I realized I definitely needed the flexibility that corporate couldn't, of course, offer me. And I realized during COVID space, there was actually more women just like me. So that's why the company's name is Women in Numbers, but we're all registered professional accountants and tax practitioners.
Amazing. And I love the initiative. Love. And like speaking from that standpoint, you mentioned you are registered tax practitioner as well, and accountant, if I'm correct.
Yes.
So for those that are looking to get into business, so I know in South Africa there are a lot of informal, unregistered businesses. And I think a lot of us have come across them, in our day-to-day lives as well. But let's kind of touch on, I want to say, the disadvantages and advantages of registering your business in South Africa. And especially, again, obviously, because I'm focusing on e-commerce, especially those in the e-commerce space, and why, and I also want to say those that are looking to why they should actually end up registering and not just kind of doing it on the fly.
Okay, I'll start with the disadvantages, because I think that'll just push you then to actually register your company. One disadvantage of not registering your business, and when I mean registering your business, that's not only registering your company as a private company or public company or a non-profit or public organization, it's also as a sole proprietor. And lots of people don't realize that you don't formally register as a sole proprietor, but you still need to declare your income to SARS. So therefore, you're still running a business, but it's as yourself, right? So that's also a business type, but of course, there's no formal setup. And the disadvantages of not setting up a business is, firstly, you're not going to get any funding. 90% of the people that applied during COVID for funding from government, they were declined because they never ever declared the income. So most of the companies were sole proprietor businesses, and those sole proprietors didn't realize just because you're not formally registered by CIPC, which is your business directory, doesn't mean you mustn't declare it to SARS. So most of the people got declined. So that's the major disadvantage of not registering your business, including your side hustle, your e-commerce website, you're selling clothing on the side. You need to declare it to SARS so that you can get funding, but not only funding. Once you declare to SARS, if you want to get any finances from any financial institution, I'm talking about any bank, they look at your tax returns. And people didn't realize that. So if you don't declare it to SARS, your side hustle, you're not going to get any money from the bank. So no bonds, no like car financing, nothing, personal loans, nothing of that sort. So that's the disadvantage. Advantages, I think it's exactly what I just said now. You gain all of that. You can get funding. You can personally grow. As individuals, like sole proprietors, they don't realize you also can get funding. Your side hustle, you can get that car you wanted from your side hustle. You just need to declare it. Also, one disadvantage of maybe registering a company is that there is cost involved. So when I mean cost, I mean you need to pay your annual returns to SARS if you're a private company or public company or a nonprofit. You have to pay your taxes, of course. You have to pay your bookkeeper or your accountant. So there is cost involved, but there are ways to minimize it because there's lots of platforms out there.
No, I love that. And I love that you mentioned that. I remember when I just started, I mean, before I knew what it was actually going to be at this point, like 4 years down the line, I had a bookkeeper from Jump Street, doing my personal taxes and my business taxes, all my monthly accounting, even just like, what do they call it, pay slips. I know it was a one-man band in the beginning. I had monthly pay slips done because I'm so scared of SARS. I was just like, I'm going to play by the rules and, just keep my hands clean, because I think I've seen way too many horror stories with business people and just, not actually paying SARS at the end of the day, how they can actually just, I've seen some companies going to complete liquidation because of that. And I was just like, that's not going to happen to me.
They have the right to put their money into your bank account and actually withdraw it at any time. Of course, over a period of time, it's like a debt collector. If you haven't paid, they actually have the full right to put their hands into your bank account, and you see that money, and the next minute it's gone. So being compliant is really important, but there is avenues to reduce their costs. There are companies like my company that offers affordable rates. I always say you need two types of people when you have a business: a lawyer and an accountant. And be as transparent as you can with them, because they are your backbone. They're going to grow your business. You have to find someone that you can relate 100% as your best person and be honest with them, and your business will grow, definitely.
Amazing advice. And for those of you that are just joining, we are dropping gems, especially of you that are in business and are not submitting your taxes and don't have a bookkeeper, and those of you that obviously want to get into the space. So I want to jump into the next one, which is, the three-letter word, which I think I avoided for the longest time, which is VAT. And I think for small businesses, there's a lot of, I want to say, gray area, because we're told, small businesses shouldn't register for VAT. And then those that, only work with government should also register. There's so many little, pockets of information that I feel like a lot of us kind of miss out. Because I remember when you had spoken to Ito on our previous live, she had mentioned something I think was called voluntary VAT. But let's touch on that and, when should small businesses apply for VAT? And then just from an e-commerce standpoint, charging for VAT, obviously, because, there's that angle as well. So, yeah.
Okay, it's actually very basic.
Okay.
So the VAT ruling applies to every type of business, including e-commerce. And the ruling is that if you make under 1 million turnover, right, you don't have to register for that. SARS cannot force you. The problem is that government has a general ruling. So when you apply for any government funding, they always ask for a VAT number. It's not compulsory. You can actually ask them and say, if I get this tender, please issue me a pro forma and then I'll go register for VAT. You are not forced in any way. You can't go, it's not a criminal charge. They can't lay a hand on you if you don't register for VAT when you're under the 1 million mark. Then you can do voluntary registration when it's over 50,000 rands of turnover for the year. That's 12 months.
Okay.
Yeah. You're not obliged. There's no push for it. And then regarding e-commerce, it applies to e-commerce as well. So if you start your side hustle, right, don't register for that. If it's under 1 million and you're only selling for the year 30,000 rands worth of clothing or any other products or so forth, like I just took an example for online clothing store, but do not register for VAT. There is so much implications and costs, and it's very time consuming. And SARS from their side also knows it's time consuming as well. That's why they put that threshold there, because they don't want every Tom, Dick, and Harry kind of applying for VAT, and then it's more work for them. So they enforce the 1 million turnover mark for you to register for that, including e-commerce.
All right, now thanks for clarifying that. Didn't know it was that easy. Sorry, because
That's okay.
that's what I said. I have to deal with. I don't have the energy.
It's quite simple, but then I should actually add with e-commerce, they did bring the ruling in now from 2014 and 2019 that they oblige foreign suppliers now also. So foreign suppliers, e-commerce, B2Bs that actually supply any electronic services to South Africa, they have to be registered. But of course, it also applies to them. Has to be 1 million turnover, and they are obliged to register for that, for SARS. The government wanted to make the whole e-commerce platform viable in South Africa and also fair, because lots of people then started buying services abroad than in South Africa, local suppliers, because they weren't paying VAT. And then they realized, let's change this and make the platform equal, and that's why SARS then implemented that e-commerce foreign suppliers also have to then register for VAT in South Africa.
Gotcha.
So that's just a little tip for businesses outside South Africa as well. Yeah.
That's actually super fascinating. Thanks for that. So, I mean, you briefly touched on it a couple of minutes ago, but just, again, for small businesses and, I'm going to say the day-to-day running and your monthly, I just want to say like your monthly fees that you need to pay from, UIF to payroll. What kind of, I'm just going to say, what kind of line items can one expect to pay every month to their bookkeeper and like, little line items, like I was mentioning, UIF, that sort of thing?
Okay, so do you mean from the taxes point of view or the actual, for the services rendered by the bookkeeper?
Well, essentially, I mean, obviously, like, I know you would pay a bookkeeper fee, but I'm just like, I know for me, every month I pay my bookkeeper, and then it's the UIF that I need to pay. I know some people pay skills development every month. There's different, let's not say line items.
Okay. All right. So it's also quite basic. I always put things in like the most basic format for business owners because, I mean, it's your job to be an accountant. That's mine. So your line items that you should pay every day is if you do have employees, then you will pay SL if you're over the 500,000 mark for the year of your salaries. Then you'll be registered for skills development levy. Otherwise, it's just 1% of the salary, but it's maxed to 177 Rand and 12 cents UIF. I know that's a bit too much, but you pay the 1% UIF, you claim from the employee, and you pay 1% as an employer, and then pay as you earn, which is your monthly taxes for the salaries, you'll pay over to SARS. Then your other, it's not monthly, but your other expenditures as well to the departments will also be every 6 months. You have to look at your income and expenses, your net profit, and then pay provisional tax. You're also obliged to do that. Of course, if you're making a loss, you don't pay anything over to SARS. So that you'll do on a biannual. So every 6 months you'll do that. Otherwise, it's merely just salaries that you actually just have to pay over to SARS. That's all they care about. And then once a year, you have to, of course, pay your company tax return.
Okay, and tell me, so I remember when I just started, somebody had told me about saving 10% of my income every month for, I think it was for my tax returns the following year for my company, something along those lines. So I just want to know, is that still a golden rule, or how does it work exactly?
So I don't go, that's what I actually use personally. That's what you're supposed to do personally. It's save 10% of 5 to 10% of your disposable income. You're supposed to save and put it in a retirement annuity or tax-free savings. But from a company perspective, that's where that provisional tax that I spoke about, that every 6 months, your accountant's supposed to sit with you, look at where your net profit is and say, okay, fine, this is how much we're going to have to pay SARS. So save it in the next month and we'll pay over. Or we can reduce it, but then remember after 12 months, you're going to have to pay that amount. SARS does charge a penalty when you do not declare the correct amount or estimation to them. They charge like a 5 to 10% penalty at the end of the year on your tax return. So your
So,
accountant needs to sit with you every 6 months.
so what exactly, sorry, now that I'm just actually digging into this, what exactly is considered a red flag when it comes to sales where they eventually like, we're going to audit you? Like, you've caught their attention. What are the
Okay,
dodgy things you
okay, so definitely a refund. So if they see that, okay, let's split it up. So you get your personal tax returns, right, and your business. Let's touch on both, because as directors of businesses, you also have to watch your salary that you join, because you also have to pay taxes towards that. So you got your personal side and your business side. Personal side, they flag when there's an immediate refund, like over like 2,000 Rand. It's automatic. You'll get an audit and it'll say yes on your assessment. That's a red flag. If you maybe paid in the previous years and all of a sudden got a refund, even if it's 100 Rand, and you do a refund for the next year, they will red flag it, because they're trying to pick up. It's not like systematic. Why did you pay in all the years and then this year? So they normally red flag in that instance. And then for businesses, they don't really red flag. They usually red flag when someone tips off that you didn't pay the UIF over to them, or PAYE. When one of your employees actually tip you off, SARS will audit you. Then for mostly the larger companies get audited merely on their VAT and then their PAYE returns. But for small businesses, you hardly get audited. If you do fall under small business corporation, which I'll go more in depth in, they don't even expect you to upload your financials even. So they hardly red flag small companies. So I'm talking about your micro businesses, your small business corporations, anything that's under your 1 million mark. They hardly red flag it. We need to remember that as much as we hate SARS, they also want to uplift small businesses. They do want, there is a guy out there that really wants small businesses to grow. I mean, that's the only way we're going to actually increase the employment in South Africa. So, yeah, so just to reiterate, there's no red flag usually for small companies that I know of. Yeah.
No, sorry, for those of you that are joining, we are just discussing obviously setting up your business to win from a financial standpoint. So either of you that are actually in business or thinking of starting a business, we're just touching on the financial aspect from, touching on SARS and registering your business, even as a sole proprietor, which I actually want to touch on. So as a sole proprietor, should we go through a bookkeeper? Because I know there is the SIPSI website, but as a sole proprietor, can you actually register on the SIPSI site?
Okay, so a sole proprietor doesn't at all have to register on CIPC. CIPC is merely just a business directory for your public, private, non-profits, and your trust companies. Sole proprietor is yourself. The only thing that you actually have to do is, sorry, I'm reading the comments.
I'm laughing.
You have to declare it on your personal tax return. So when you do your tax return, there's actually an icon on the first questionnaire that pops down that says, are you running it doesn't say, are you running a business? It actually says, are you in partnership or in any ventures? You actually have to tick, and then you say what type of business you are. And then there'll be a template that drops down. It's an income and expense schedule. So it's literally just your income and your expenses and your net profit. And you are taxed then on your net profit that you make for your business, not your turnover as a sole proprietor. And then it's applicable in whatever tax bracket it falls in. So that's how sole proprietor works.
Super informative. Did not even know that. I mean, I went straight to just, registering a business when I started, because I was just like, this is what needs to be done. Yeah. So that's actually super helpful. So I guess that also probably, again, applies in for freelancers and consultants who aren't obviously looking to have a full-on team and business. Okay.
And also people don't realize as sole proprietors, you can have employees. I think lots of people are like, oh no, but like, I'm not a one-man show. I'm like, if you have 3 employees, you can register for PAYE, UIF for your employees. You can even register for VAT, for customs. You can do everything on a sole proprietor. Just like I said, the benefit, I ask people to first, if you're going to start a business, do it as a sole proprietor first, because in the first 5 years and first 5 businesses, it normally fails. Normally, that's a statistic. But excluding that, there's less cost involved. So rather run it as a sole proprietor, and once it actually gains momentum after the first 1 or 2 years, then transfer to a private company. Like I said, there's more cost implications, there's more administrative work. So if you can afford then your full-time accountant or outsource accountant, which we do offer, then jump over. But start as, if you are a freelancer, blogger, influencer, start as a sole proprietor, declare it to SARS, and you can grow your business from there.
Where were you 4 years ago? I'm sitting and I'm just like, I don't have this information. And like Danae was saying, like, these are the things we should be learning in life orientation. We do not have half of this information going up.
And I find that also, like now during tax season, it's just a little input. I find a lot of people don't like sharing this information. And I think that's a bit horrible in South Africa, because the information's all out, it's there. It's in textbooks and that. But I find other accountants and tax practitioners, not bad-mouthing, they just don't like to educate people. Mm-hmm. And that's the whole point of my business. I educate all my clients. So when they do leave me, they always come back and they're like, you taught me this and this, and I'm telling my new accountant this. And I'm like, that's great. Because people forget, as business owners, the onus still lies on you to pay SARS and declare everything. So you can't blame your accountant. You still need to educate. And I just love educating people. I mean, the information's out there.
No, and that's powerful. And I'm glad that you actually empower, your clients as well. It's so important. So with that and empowering people, please give us your top 3 tips to make sure like your business is set up to win from a financial perspective. I know you've dropped some serious gems now, but just like your top 3 tips, even if it's like how to reduce your taxes or get a little something back at the end of the year, just give us something along those lines.
Okay, I'm going to give 3 tips tax-wise and 3 tips for businesses, right? So to win from a business aspect, I always say basics. Get your basics down, your branding, your logo, your website, get all your stationery done first from a branding aspect, and because you're never going to have time once your business is up and running. If you have that basics down, your administration, your invoice template, if you have that down, then start your business. Then second, of course, always have an accountant and a lawyer on standby. When you're starting your business, you don't necessarily need them from the beginning, but you will need them towards the end as your business grows. What is my third one for businesses? Okay, then from a tax perspective, to reduce it, number 1, be transparent to your accountants, because that's the only way they're going to work their magic. If you're not transparent and say everything to them, they might actually leave information out, and that can lead to an audit. So tip number 1, tax-wise, be transparent to your accountant about everything. Then from your side, to save on tax, I would always say, which I actually highlighted earlier, every 6 months, look at your net profit. Rather pay into SARS and get that money 1 year later back if you pay too much, because it can go back into your cash flow. Then tip number 3, excluding every 6 months, looking at your net profit, every month, look at your expenditure and see how you can reduce it. Simple things like bank charges, people don't realize. If you're on a pay-as-you-go, this is specifically for small businesses. If you are on a pay-as-you-earn transaction account, because you normally set that up as a small business, you can pay up to like 12,000 Rand for the month, depending on your amount of transactions. And accountants and people and small businesses don't realize this. So look at those expenditures every month and review them, because at the end of the day, you started a business to make profit. So the only way you're going to actually have more profit is either to increase sales or decrease your expenditure. So always review your expenditure on a month-to-month basis and see where you can cut, so that you can actually increase your profit.
I love
that. I don't know if that helps.
No, that really helps. And actually, I want to kind of just dwell on, I almost want to call it tools, essentially. And that's more from an invoicing and maybe I guess, a bookkeeping standpoint. I know it's probably not the same, but for example, with Wave, I know I used Wave in the beginning as my invoicing. So I think oh, sorry, there's a question. I feel like we need this once a month at least. Super informative. Thank you, Charlotte. Sorry, so I was saying, with regards to like tools and that, what are some of the tools from an invoicing and maybe bookkeeping, bookkeeping's perspective can, small business owners adopt or register for or subscribe to that you can actually recommend, obviously from a South African standpoint, because I know not every, like Wave doesn't actually work that well in South Africa anymore. They did, but there were certain integrations that they've cut off and are kind of useless.
Yeah, no, okay. So for the tools, is actually part of those when I said you need to get your basics down, your invoice templates and that. So it's great you said that. So the software tools, because I am integrated with all online accounting software systems, because of that's how my business runs. But if you just started your business, Wave is great, like you just said, but Wave is American and they actually stopped servicing South Africa. Unless you still have an account right now, you can still run it. But then they're affiliated with Zoho Books. So Zoho Books is actually partly like South African as well, but they do have a subscription fee. That's the only downfall. So usually if people can't sign up with Wave, because a few of my clients still actually signed up like recently with Wave and it allowed them. So I would say Wave #1. But if you are literally a startup, like I'm just saying a one-man team, pop me an email. I can send you a template in Excel. It has macro enabled kind of thing. It has your invoicing templates. You can use that to start off with. But otherwise, Zoho Books is the next. Then you also have Sage. Sorry, I lost you there, Cleo.
Oh, sorry. Can you see me?
Kind of. You like sepia, like pink and white.
Okay. Move myself a little bit.
Okay. As long as you can hear me.
Yeah. Perfect.
Okay. All right. So I said Wave, then Zoho Books, then of course Sage and Xero. I must say Xero is perfect for business owners that are not accounting streamlined. So if you know nothing about accounting, I find Xero is actually very user-friendly for business owners. Then you also have Sage Online, and then you can also purchase Pastel, which is also the same company, but Pastel is more on your PC, and then Sage is Pastel that's online, if that makes sense. I know the next question you're going to ask me is cost. So what are the costs involved for these subscriptions?
No, because the only reason I wanted to ask is, I'm not sure if you saw, but I mean, I'm sure a lot of the banks have it, but I know with F&B business, they have their own payroll and invoicing in the back end. But I just never found it user-friendly. It was horrible.
It is. I have a few clients that call me and be like, how do I even pull something from here? And I'm like, yeah, it's not user-friendly, but it is an option. I mean, F&B is great that they offer the service where they can register your company, open a bank account, and you have that online, it's called instant accounting, that's available, which is great for your startups. But then, like you just mentioned, when you go to the bank and you do all of this registration, ask them to also train you in online accounting, because otherwise you're going to have to pay someone and outsource someone to actually then show you. So you can stay once you register while you're in the bank, just ask them, now what, can you just show me how to use this? Like you said, it's not user friendly. It's not like Wave, which is, let's just give everyone insight into Wave. Wave is so simple, guys. There is literally, it says sales, purchases, and then like expenses, and then reconciliation. It's basic. It's like, it's the best user-friendly, I think, app ever.
And I love the fact that I have the invoicing app on my phone. So if I'm on the road and somebody needs an invoice from me for something, I can just, not that I'm trying to text and drive at the same time, but I can send them something like quick. And it also sends it from the professional, like you have an accountant. So it's like, it would be like nuclear at Wave apps, And it sends us a little professional email. Even if you need to follow up on payments, it's not you nagging them, it's the system. So I love Wave.
Yeah. So like I said, for people that want to try it out, I think that you still have room to download it. You can download it like Cleo just mentioned. You can download it on your phone and then also log in on the internet on your PC, which actually gives you more tools on your PC and there's limited kind of resources on your phone, but you can definitely do the invoicing, and you can send reminders, and you can do everything.
So you were still going to touch on the subscription fees for the other platforms that you just mentioned.
Okay. So Zoho is, I think it's very cheap. It's like 500 Rand for the year. So they actually best, and they're the ones that are affiliated with Wave. Then Stage is 2,000 Rand for the year, or you can do a monthly subscription. I think it's like 295 per month. So you want to do the monthly basis, but then please remember, guys, if you don't pay, they're not going to allow you to get onto your to log in and then actually do any invoicing. So it's best to actually do the annual subscription if you do have the money up front. And then Zero's pricing is actually very close to Sage. It's also around about 2-3 for the year, and then also 200 to 300 Rand per month. It all depends on how many users. So most of these online platforms work that they usually have one user, you can register, and then your accountant's for free. He or she gets his own setup, and then they just log in. They don't go through your profile. Then if you want to hire, maybe you have a PA or something, you do pay per user, and that's why the packages actually increase. So they charge per user. That's how it works, the pricing.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. Okay, so speaking about, again, going back to with e-commerce specifically, and I know we were speaking about government and obviously getting, specific grants and stuff from them. Are you aware of any for e-commerce, like tax breaks or grants for those in the e-commerce space? I know the Western Cape government had a massive push, I think it was this year or last year, for those that were getting into the e-commerce space. So I'm not sure if there are still any available or, what the drivers from government, but yeah, interested to hear your side.
So there's no tax rebates for e-commerce because how tax works is a bit different. It's not industry related. Just overall, and it's usually like to products. So like if you're a small company that has plant and machinery, you get maybe a different depreciation rate. So like I said, the tax is not applicable to industries. But for grants, I know that Shopify, I don't know if you're talking about that one, but not only Western Cape, in South Africa, they did launch a grant with Shopify. For e-commerce platforms. I don't know if it's still running, but it was also last year that they initiated it. I think I'll try and find the actual link and then maybe put it and then send it to you and share it with everyone else on the e-commerce. But yes, that is a grant that's available, but there's no tax rebate, guys. I'm so sorry. No tax rebates for e-commerce. It all depends on what expenditure you have, and then you can actually see what's a deduction that you could have for your business. So what I mean, like if you have a student and they actually pay your subsidy to have like a learnership kind of thing, get a learnership allowance. You can get, like I said, better depreciation rates for depending on your plant and machinery. You get debt allowances. So like I said, it's not industry specific for companies. It's just depending on what your expenditure is. But you guys definitely have to look into that grant because I'm sure that it's still running. It's affiliated with Shopify and it's for e-commerce.
Love it. Awesome. Guys, if you have any questions, that was all from my side. And I found this super informative, especially for somebody that's been in business for like 4.5 years. But this was super informative. If you have any questions, please do pop it below. Just trying to see. I think Nadine also said, hey, ladies. Hi. So I'm trying to go through the other comments. Just starting up my brand in fashion. Sorry, this is from Hosera. Sorry. But it's been recommended that I registered as a private then rather than a sole proprietorship. Just wanted to know your thoughts on it.
I think the first question I'm going to have to ask you is, did someone specifically say, so that's what I just mentioned earlier, like if you go through government and you're looking for tenders and that, lots of them like to deal with private companies, then they force you to have a VAT number. So if there's usually a reason behind, someone will tell you to register for a private company. And it's usually grant related or tender related that that company will specifically push you in that avenue. Otherwise, sole proprietor, like I said, if you're starting up, sole proprietor is the best way just to minimize your costs. You don't have that cost to pay annual returns every year, your VAT returns every month. Guys, it becomes costly. I mean, you start paying nearly up to like 5,000 to 10,000 rand for an outsourced accountant to do all of that. It's tedious, it's admin, it's tedious, and it's cost. So really, I think find out from whoever said that, the reasoning behind it. Others, from my side, sole proprietor is the way for a startup. Yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Awesome. Guys, if you have any other questions, please do pop it below. And Jose, I hope that kind of answered your question. But I'm sure myself or Heloise DMs are open for you to pop extra questions through, or to email Heloise as well if you want to kind of tickle her brain a little further. Yeah, and I think that's about it. Okay, I don't see any other questions coming through. But guys, you're welcome to pop your comments or questions below once I've posted this on my feed. And then, yeah, we'll engage with you from there. But I hope you've enjoyed this and found it super informative. Heloise, thank you so much for your time. Mind-blowing. Love it. Yeah, and I look forward to more lives with you, obviously, in the future. And good luck with Win and obviously the amazing initiative behind it as well. All the best. And, yeah, keep safe.
Thank you so much for having me on the platform. And just like Hio just said, it'll be great if people can just DM us, and then I'll definitely answer any questions or advice that they need.
Amazing. All right, guys, thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.